Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to the channel. Thank you guys so much for clicking on this video. Today we are taking a look at the golf swing of Paul Casey. Now Paul Casey been on the tour for probably the best part of 2 decades now. Been around for a long time, but really consistent, really great player, really good ball striker, and we're going to take a look at his golf swing and see what he does so well, or maybe see what he doesn't do so well, see what you guys could learn from it, see how he generates so much power. So let's dive straight in, start taking a look at Paul Casey's swing. We have really good looks with 3-wood driver, front on, down the line, everything for you guys to take a look at. So let's get started. First of all, we're going to take a look from the US Open, Paul Casey's golf swing with a 3-wood. Now, really good slow motion look this. As we slowly take this club back, well, first of all, let's just have a look at setup. Setup position, there's a few slightly, maybe you could say, off things. First of all, he has a little bit of arch in his lower back and a little bit of rounding in his upper back, so maybe not the best posture. Fairly upright spine angle. His alignment, if you look, his feet are actually aligned slightly to the right, but his knees and hips and even his shoulders actually are kind of aligned slightly more to the left. So wouldn't 100% recommend doing that. Not sure why that is, if that's something he's conscious of or not. I'm sure he probably is. As we take this club back, if we slowly play it back and pause it parallel to the ground, really nice takeaway, pretty simple, keeps the club head nice and wide outside the hands, keeps that face nice and square, no real wrist set at this position. Just taking the club away with his body, with that arm structure, good connection with that triangle between the arms and shoulders. As we start to play this to the top, he's now going to start to lift that left heel quite early, hinge those wrists a bit more, get that bit of bend in that right arm. And I'm going to pause it actually just short of the top because he has a very quick transition that he kind of starts very early, and you're going to see exactly what I mean in a second. Now, there's quite a few things to talk about. First of all, let's work from the ground up. Leg structure, really good. He's lifted that left heel in order to get a bit more load and use the ground a bit better on the way down, because he's going to plant that left heel, help him push off the ground a little bit better. So if you do want to generate some more power, or maybe use the ground a bit more, or maybe even increase some rotation, clear that left hip a bit earlier, maybe not a bad idea to try doing that. It also has helped him load more into that right hip, right glute. And in terms of arm structure, that's probably the thing I'm not the biggest fan of in Paul Casey's swing. He does a few things. It's funny actually, because he does a few things which I used to do but I just really didn't like about my swing, so I kind of still am trying to almost train myself out of them. They're really kind of my bad things, but he obviously makes them work a lot better than I can. And so if we look at his right arm, there's quite a lot of bend in the right elbow, so it's quite a narrow swing. He does keep very good connection with the arms throughout the golf swing, so there's kind of positives and negatives, there's trade-offs to it. He also uses this as a way to generate power, which I'll explain more in a second, but he has a very narrow golf swing. The arm's very connected, a lot of bend in that right arm. He also has the club, you could probably say a bit across the line, just a little bit across the line. He does like to hit a bit of he likes to hit a fade primarily, is his stock shot, but he can also turn it right to left quite a lot. I think his grip also might be a little bit strong in the left hand. And the right arm, the only other thing I'd say is it's a little bit deep, just a little bit deeper than I'd maybe like it if you're going to get that much bend in the right elbow. But obviously Paul Casey makes all these things work phenomenally. He's a great player. As we start to play this down, watch this slowly. He's going to stamp that left heel down, transferring weight into the left really early as he pulls the arms down in front of him. He uses his arms, actually similar to Brooks Koepka, using his arms a lot in this golf swing to generate that power. A lot of bend in that right elbow still. And then on the way down, straightens out that right arm. If we pause it parallel to the ground here, you can see he's starting to close that club face. Club face is starting to get slightly squarer. Club head maybe slightly outside the hands, coming down on quite an upright plane. Right heel up off the ground. Right knee and right hip, you could say, maybe starting to move into the ball a little bit. Great connection with the arms though, and as we play this down into the ball, he releases that kind of right hand under the ball in order to, you know, get that club back out in front and get that height on the ball, releasing that right hand. If you hit a very low ball or if you hit a fade, releasing that right hand earlier can definitely help you with that. At this position at impact, open hips, open shoulders. You could maybe say slight early extension with that right hip moving into the ball a little bit, but great connection with the arms. And as we play this through, brings the arms back out in front of him, keeps very good connection with the arms through his golf swing. You know, that left arm hinging up, bringing the hands up above him in the follow through. Let's just play this back a few times, and guys, comment down below if there's anything you noticed I haven't talked about there. The main aspects for me are really how kind of narrow he is at the top, some of the leg work as well, and then how he pulls those arms back down in front of him. He definitely has to work quite hard with the arms. It does actually remind me quite a lot of Brooks Koepka's swing, how upright he comes on the way down. I actually recently did a video on Brooks Koepka's swing, so I recommend checking that out. I also did a video on Brooks Koepka versus Bryson DeChambeau's swing. Little humor there for you. Obviously, they're not best friends, so if you want to check that out on my channel. Now we're going to have a look at Paul Casey hitting the driver. Really good look from the Open Championship this year with the driver on the 18th tee. Now at setup, again we can kind of see a few things. The feet aiming slightly right. The hips and knees and shoulders aren't too bad. They're aiming pretty straight here. Just the feet aiming slightly right. And, you know, again, quite a lot of knee bend, fairly upright. That spine angle, he does get that kind of S bend in the spine a little bit. As we start to take this back, we'll pause it parallel to the ground, brings that club outside the hands with that nice square face. You know, a lot of the best players, most of them have that club head outside the hands at this position. And then as we play it back to the top, starts to hinge that right arm, lifts up that left heel. If we pause it just before the top of the backswing again, because he's going to stamp that down in the transition, we can kind of see from here slightly strong left hand grips, fairly strongish club face, a lot of bend in the right arm. Again, this is how he generates a lot of power from his right arm. The more bend you get in the right arm, you can use it more as a lever to release that down into the ball. Now, I'm personally not the biggest fan of that. I would rather have a straighter right arm, which creates more width, which also can create more speed and power. Plus, it's bringing the club on a wider arc, which means it's going to be ultimately more consistent and will help you rotate a bit more. Whereas like Paul and Brooks really use that right arm to create power, which is a good way of doing it, you know, but personally not my favorite way of doing it. But, you know, it does take a bit of strain off some other areas of the body. And as we play, it's quite a short swing here from Paul, by the way, as well. You know, he's nowhere near parallel with the ground with that club head. As we start to play this down again, stamps that left heel down, and pretty much almost immediately the right heel comes up off the ground. As he pulls those, he's very kind of slightly steep plane, very upright plane, as he pulls the arms back down in front of him. And if we pause it here with the club parallel to the ground, pretty much on plane, very square club face, like to see that. Again, similar to Brooks in some ways. Right heel very up off the ground, not very much rotation at this point, and we are going to see a little bit of early extension as he comes down into the ball. You know, that right hip and right knee do move kind of into it because that right heel comes up off the ground, and probably you could say maybe losing his spine angle and posture a little bit, quite narrow, looks quite cramped at impact. I'm not criticizing, by the way, guys, I'm just stating this as kind of fact. That's the position he is in. He makes it work. He's a phenomenal golfer, but you know, that's just the position he's in. Looks a bit cramped, very upright, but you know, makes it work as he extends through the ball, extends those arms. Those arms have to work quite hard in the golf swing as he brings them through to nice balance finish. We'll just play this back a few times for you guys. Again, just look how much he has to work on the downswing primarily with the arms. Not much rotation of the body really. Keeps good connection of the arms to the body. You know, he does. It's funny because most people who have a narrow golf swing, it's very easy to hit the ball very low, and actually Paul Casey hits the ball quite high, and he primarily does that by releasing that right hand underneath the ball to, you know, get that elevation on it as he comes down and through the ball. Now guys, let's take a look at Paul Casey's driver swing from front on. This is a really good look again to understand Paul Casey's golf swing. Again, a really recent video here. As we have it paused at driver, you know, with the driver setup, pretty classic setup, nothing really going on here, pretty good setup. You could copy a lot of those aspects. As we slowly take it back, we're going to see a bit of a lateral shift in the hips, a little bit kind of moving to the right, just a little bit, well, his right, our left. And as we take this back to the top, very late wrist set, and as we're going to pause it again, just short of the top of the backswing because he has that very early release of the kind of lower body and stuff. At this position, you know, pretty good here. Actually looks like he creates more width from this position. You can see the connection with the arms and the body, you know, not that much wrist set, probably about 90 degrees or so angle in the wrist. The arms are nicely in front of him. Club is getting nowhere near parallel. Good load into that right hip, into his lower body. And great spine angle as well, really, really good there. And as we play this down, he's going to stamp that left heel down. Club's still moving back, loading the shaft a bit more as he starts to push up off the ground and releases. Well, you can see kind of it looks so cramped and narrow here as we come into impact. We'll pause it just before impact. You can kind of see exactly what we're kind of talking about there. Just as he starts to come down into impact, I think it's more because of the right hip and right knee and maybe right heel moving up off the ground and into the ball. That's kind of what causes him to look a little bit cramped as he comes down to impact. Obviously it makes it work though, very, very, very well. And you know, great spine angle again here. As we play this through, pushing up off the ground, releasing the arms under the ball, you know, and look at here in the follow through, the arms stay very, very connected to the body. No massive extension with the arms. And at this position at the finish, you know, kind of leaning back on it, maybe just a touch in order to kind of, I think, kind of, you know, get that club back out in front of him, basically. And now we're just going to have a look at a few other swings quickly. This first one's actually the most recent from the Olympics with driver. Really good look at Paul Casey's swing here. This is actually a slightly different swing. I'm not going to talk too much about the setup, but as we play this back, although he has slightly better posture at the setup, as we play this back, big wide takeaway like that, I'm not going to pause it parallel to the ground, but if we pause it at the top, this is a little bit more interesting. It's actually, there's a few changes to this swing than what we've just had a look at. I'm going to pause it just, you know, it's paused just short of parallel too, just short of the full backswing. Actually, a few more interesting things happening here. He appears to have gotten a bit more arm depth, a bit more turn in the backswing, because that club is definitely getting closer to parallel than in the swings we just took a look at. Bit more hip turn, bit more shoulder turn. Again, club working a little bit across the line. And as we start to play this down, he's going to actually bring the club a little bit more shallow from the inside and not quite as, you know, cramped as he maybe was. If we pause it just before impact, we can still see again he's kind of early extending a little bit as he comes into the ball with that right hip, but it's actually a little bit better than it was, or it looks to me, because that club's coming through a little bit more from the inside, a little bit shallower. And then as we play this through, releasing that club out to the right a bit more, and looks like he hit a nice big high draw basically as he comes through to that nice balanced finish. Let's just play this back once or twice. And again, let me know what differences you see here in this swing compared to the swings we just took a look at. Because to me, it does look, even though they're not very long apart time-wise, only a few weeks apart, does look a little bit different, personally, to me, from the swings we just took a look at. We're going to just quickly also have a look at a few slightly older swings of Paul Casey's. This one's from 2019. You know, he's playing really well at this point, actually. This is a Bethpage Black. And, you know, it's set up here, actually, with the driver. Looks a bit different. A lot better posture here. Doesn't have that S curve. His alignment still, you could say, with those knees and hips, definitely aiming a bit left and his feet aiming maybe slightly right. As we play this club back, again, pretty much the same takeaway. And as we get to the top, at this position, I would probably say he's actually got the club slightly more laid off. His right arm actually doesn't look like it's quite as bent as maybe some of the other swings. It probably still is a bit more bent personally than I'd like it, but maybe not quite as bent. Still got that left heel up. And then as we start to play this down, you know, again, pulling those arms back out in front of him, nicely on plane though. And if we pause it at impact, pretty similar impact position. I don't notice a huge amount different there. I'd love if you do notice anything different, comment down below. And then if we play this swing through, you know, pretty similar to me there. Just play this back from the start once for you guys and just take a good look at it. Again, if you see any differences in this golf swing, do comment down below. I'd love to hear from you guys. Personally, it's mostly about the setup for me and a little bit at the top of the backswing differences from his current swing. And then if we go back even further to 2018, we'll just have a quick look at this swing. Actually, this looks very, very different, the setup. We can actually see a bit more of the evolution of Paul Casey's golf swing. The knees and hips, and even shoulders, actually really pointed left. Feet, you know, pretty much down the line. And then as we take this club back, and, you know, pretty similar takeaway-ish, but as we get to the top of the backswing, that's quite different. Right arm is deeper, more in behind him, more arm depth with the arms, and, you know, club is definitely more laid off and a little bit maybe more open in the club face than some of the swings we just took a look at. And then as we start to play this down, again, probably not as upright on the downswing, a little bit flatter. And then as he comes through the ball, if we pause it, impact, similar-ish, maybe not quite as much early extension, a little bit better spine angle. And then if we play this through, releases the arms nicely down the line. Let's just play this back again. Let me know what changes you see in this swing. For me, it's primarily at the setup. His spine angle looks a little bit more over the ball, a little bit better posture. His alignment is more off, actually, than it currently is. And then club, right arm works a little bit deeper and club a little bit more laid off, not as across the line. But, you know, really beautiful shot there. Guys, that is Paul Casey's golf swing. Let me know what you think about that. I think for me, the fundamentals of it, you know, it looks like, it's kind of funny actually, because for most of the tour players we look at, the things like alignment are almost always perfect because they obviously have coaches working with them a lot, and if alignment gets off, they correct it pretty much immediately. Paul Casey obviously will have some sort of coach or someone looking at his golf swing. So, but obviously his alignment is maybe not very traditional with, you know, the feet being pointed slightly right, the knees and hips slightly left. So kind of interesting that. And then he does a few unusual things. He does hinge, you know, he creates power primarily from the upper body, I would say, really. He does use the ground reasonably well. Maybe not the best of any player, but he reasonably well uses. He loads into that backswing and then he stamps that left heel down the downswing. But he really primarily, for me, generates that power with the arms and the upper body. Very strong guy, pretty stocky guy. You know, a lot of release of the right elbow. And, you know, gets that club maybe a little bit across the line, the more recent swings. But, you know, phenomenal ball striker, great iron player as well. And, you know, pretty good driver of the golf ball, actually. He has a pretty simple golf swing that, you know, because those arms are very connected to the body, even though it's a slightly narrow golf swing, because the arms are very connected to the body, I think that gives him a lot of consistency But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Paul Casey, phenomenal golfer. Really great to see him playing so well recently. Comment your thoughts down below. Reply to all your comments, guys. Give this video a like. Subscribe to the channel. Stay tuned for future videos of what's to come. Check out some more recent videos. We take a look at Nelly Korda's golf swing, Abraham Answer recently, and loads more other really good content on my channel. So make sure you are subscribed. I will see you in the next one, guys. As always, grip it and rip it.